Hey, this is Josh with FTP Media, Photos from the Pit, whatever the hell I'm calling myself these days, I don't remember. With some friends of mine that I met on the road, 7 years ago, we got Shaun Soho and the man with three names, Alex Scott Donaldson of Crash Midnight.
Oh, absolutely.
Gentlemen, how are you?
Great.
Doing great, man.
How have you been?
Oh, hanging in there.
How are you?
Falling apart.
Yeah.
But I have electricity, I have heat, but I don't have water, so I'll take what I can get right now.
That's about 4 anyway, so.
Okay, well, so we're going down meatloaf. Okay. You feel about meatloaf.
Surviving.
Yes. So last time you guys were just on the road with the Pretty Reckless, and now you decided to stop touring and just make a home base in Vegas. And since you've done that, you've done some interesting things, opened up for bands like Steel Panther and Tom Kiefer and Buck Cherry. So how's that working out? Are you making good connections out there?
Yeah, it's turned out really cool. We have one of our really good friends books Brooklyn Bowl, and he actually used to book House of Blues out in Boston while we were there, and we just kind of missed each other. But we found like all those degrees of separation with like his sister went to the same school that I did, and a bunch of other things that were just like, man, how did we never meet each other before? And he kind of brought us into the whole Live Nation fold, and we've gotten a lot of great opportunities there. And then and now we're doing a lot of great stuff downtown at Fremont Country Club and Backstage Bar and Billiards. So we've gotten to play pretty much every cool spot that there is out here in Vegas.
So how does the vibe in Vegas at the smaller clubs compare to life in the clubs and the theaters that you would play on the road? Do you have more of a tourist crowd downtown in Vegas, or is it more of the locals, or is it kind of a mix of everything else?
Well, it really depends on who we're playing with. When we're opening up for a band like Steel Panther, they essentially do a residency out here. So we will actually get a lot of tourists that come to a show like that. What they do is I think they had like one Friday booked a month or whatever it was. And so there was a big tourist, plus that House of Blues was part of Mandalay Bay. So obviously you get a huge casino crowd with all that. But as far as like the local downtown or the downtown scene, primarily, our fans would come to that. Our fans would also come to Steel Panther. But playing both shows was great because there's always that built-in audience at those strip venues. So that was nice too. And it's kind of like touring without having to go to another city because the crowd is the one that essentially tours and comes back in after week. But, it's cool. Yeah, I like it.
I haven't played in front of as many Canadians since Montreal when we play House of Blues. Like it's ridiculous. You'll run into like a million Canadians. There was was it at the Hard Rock? We played vinyl that Alex went back he went back to the hotel room with the two separate groups of Australians that you thought knew each other but just happened to all be from Australia.
Oh yeah, it was crazy. There was
I thought people knew each other.
Where was it? It was after Steel Panther, I think.
No, maybe it was after Steel Panther. That's right.
Yeah, I think it was after Steel Panther. All these Australian people who I assumed were all in one group. There ended up being like 4 different groups of Australian people. It was bizarre. It was a bizarre night. I ended up staying up all night. My keys, my car wasn't there because I drove with somebody else, and I just was like, oh my God, pick me up.
Oh yeah, you drove with us, and we had to pick you up in the morning.
Yeah, they picked me up, man.
And he wasn't even there in the morning. He was like down by the stratosphere or something.
Right. Thankfully, I crashed at John Gitt's condo there at like 5 in the morning because we were just like walking around like fucking nowhere to go. It was just a big mess. But
I think we were going to the lake in the morning too, so we like picked him up and like bathing suit on and took off.
It was a mess.
And so we're
doing the same shit here that we did on the road, John.
I got no sleep.
Right. At least you can crash at your own place or get a hotel room and get back home later that same day.
Yeah, basically playing Vegas is like tour with better beds.
No, that's all you can hope for. And so you mentioned the Fremont Country Club, and I know that earlier you discussed something about doing a streaming residency from them. So
yeah. Oh, I cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, so what's going on with that?
So, yeah, it's much easier to interview in person because you know when somebody's done talking, I guess. But so so Fremont Country Club and Backstage Bar and Billiards are sister venues, right next to each other. The Backstage Bar and Billiards is kind of like a seedy New York 450 cap, club, and then Fremont Country Club is a bigger 850, cap club. And so during the COVID stuff, they shut down obviously all the venues, so they basically put a full-on television studio into Fremont Country Club, the bigger club, so that they could have like 7 different cameras. They've got one of those, what do they call it, an XY camera, like kind of stuff you see during like football games that zoom over the huddle, so it like moves all throughout the club and everything. And they've been getting some really, really cool concerts going through there. So we're going to have our first, because as usual, Crash Midnight always has like all sorts of hurdles that we have to go through, with like a drummer that broke an arm, and then our rhythm guitarist broke his finger, and all these delays that ended up happening. But it worked out great because we're going to be able to time it right with our release of our new single, Killing Time. And we're going to do a streaming concert from Fremont Country Club that'll go live on Saturday, March 6th. And we'll have the links and the exact time for you soon, so we can have you give that a shout out.
Okay, so that's on the 6th, and I believe that you said that the new single, which is available for pre-save on Spotify and Apple Music, is coming out on March 5th.
That's right. Yeah, we have we have so many great friends in the media now, like yourself, Josh, that all seem to really come together when I said, hey, we got a new single coming out. Like, what are you guys up to right now? Because obviously there's not as much to cover anymore. And just the support that all you guys have shown us was awesome. And we're like, you know what? Let's do this. Let's time the concert to be the day after the single releases, so that when all these interviews and everything else that everybody's doing comes out, it can have the actual direct link with the time and all that stuff. Because right now in the COVID season, everything is subject to change depending on who's healthy at the time. So we wanted to try to be able to get you guys the most up-to-date information on when it's going to start streaming and all that. But yeah, we're really excited. It's going to be the first performance of Killing Time ever.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I listened to it, and it's amazing. Like right away, the drums came in and the guitar came. I'm like, that's Crash Midnight. And I listened to a lot of it, and you have a very distinct sound. It's people who know. If you know, you know.
No, I hear you. Well, honestly, we've been really, really fortunate to be able to record at the Hideout Studio. Alex has an office over there. We've gotten to be very good friends with the staff over there, and our co-producer Tristan Harden has really helped us. Along with, honestly, like Alex has learned so much since he's been over there too, from a production standpoint, that we've really been able to get our sound together to the point where every single thing comes out and it sounds like us, but it just sounds like us with a whole lot more behind it. Everything's tighter and better thought out, and so I'm just really excited. Even from like the last single, Don't Need Your Advice, like what we've been able to achieve through that studio has been incredible, I think. I don't know, Alex, you want to talk about some of the production stuff you've been doing?
Oh yeah, I mean, I have an office there. I pretty much do my guitar lessons out of there. I also have a subscription level guitar lesson service called Level Up Guitar. But yeah, what I'll do is I'll do a lot of studio work out there as well. And as I'm there doing some studio work, I'll get an idea of how the big name producers do it. And the fact their attention to detail is something that I've tried to incorporate in our songs, because I felt as if most of the stuff we've done has really kind of missed the mark musically, at least on the production side. I felt as if we really, gosh, I don't know how to tread on this, tread lightly, but the detail wasn't put into things that were out of my control, essentially. I'm just trying to control more elements of doing that. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's we knew what we were going for, and we just weren't ever able to figure out how to get it. And
we always assumed that somebody was going to do this for us, and it never happened. So I'm just taking the liberty of doing it ourselves now. You know?
Kind of a metaphor for the music industry with us is like we got sick of waiting for somebody else to do it for us, get us these opportunities, and we said, "The hell with it, we're just going to get it ourselves." And I think ever since we started doing that, we have seen so much success and had so many great opportunities. And just met so many great people that have been amazing and opening doors for us. Like, I mean, if you look at this studio is literally an active rock powerhouse. I've lost track of how many top 10 active rock singles they had in the last year. But, I mean, it's incredible. The producers that go through there and the owners, obviously the Churcos that own the studio, it's both Kane and Kevin are just powerhouses in themselves. So we've been very lucky to be surrounded by all of that and been able to kind of, glean some really cool advice and just direction off of how they produce their things.
Right. So, and then you also do have another single lined up to come out around the August time frame. It's supposed to get a lot of
ideally,
yeah.
We're kind of talking. We're kind of in theory, we're kind of to throw it around some ideas. We have a couple of songs already done. We're just thinking about what to release next. One, we have another song that's completely recorded, but we're trying to save that for some other opportunities later down the line, and a couple of them in various stages of completion. I guess the success of Killing Time, what that does is kind of going to probably determine what happens next.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was even in today recording vocals for a song that I'm hoping we can have out in May, depending on how it comes together. So Alex hasn't even heard it yet, so we'll find out a little bit more after.
I think we have a couple of other great ones too. That's something
we do. Yeah, no, we have some that we were able to play one live show in front of an actual audience. We played another really good friend, former Live Nation guy who has done all sorts of management and stuff on his own, Donaldson. He started a business called Prohibited Parties, and we got to play the kickoff of that. And that was at Las Vegas Country Club, and we had, it was honestly one of the first live shows that anybody had been able to pull off since the pandemic started. And it was insanely, tightly contained as far as like the COVID protocol for it. Everyone was at, these separate tables, and, we played it with another band out of LA called Vintage Trouble that we really liked. And it was fantastic. We got to play this, it's so weird, like not being able to play in front of an audience. And finally we had an audience in front of us, even though they were socially distanced. But we got to play a bunch of these new songs for them, and there were a couple that really, really stuck with those guys. And I think you can tell when the same, when so many people come up to you after a show and say, "You guys sound great normally, but that song, that song was something," and that's the one that we're really excited to get recording, and we're hoping to have that one out in the fall. Which I won't even tell you what it is, so you have to come back, join us in the next episode.
So I know you had mentioned to me off to the side earlier that there's something that might be going before some games later this year. Is that anything that you can talk about a little more, tease on, or is that?
So we have a lot of really good connections with the sports teams out here, and we've got a commitment from some of them that I just don't want to name specifically right now, so it can kind of be a fun thing to announce later. But we've got a commitment from a couple of the pretty big sports teams out here to play our song, and we're working on making it an even bigger deal. So that's kind of why we're keeping it a little close to the vest at the moment. But you're definitely going to hear our stuff getting played during some games once we get into the fall here. So we're excited about that. We're excited about how much this town supports us. And I mean, Boston was great to us, and not to take it, I'm going to sound like Tom Brady here, coming from Boston or something like that. But Boston was great to us, but Las Vegas has just been something far and beyond what we ever could have imagined when we first moved out here. Between the industry people embracing us, the being able to get involved in the studio like Hideout, just the amount of people in our corner out here, I can't emphasize enough how much this town has embraced us and how many opportunities we've gotten.
You know, that is fantastic news, and you guys definitely deserve it. You need more airplay. That's all I can say.
Thanks, Josh. Well, we, I think out here it's just been, this is the perfect town for us. You know, we really like to get out there. We like to go to all the bars all the time. We like to get plugged in the scene. And in this town, the scene doesn't stop. You have the weekend crowd of the tourists and those guys, and then you've got we have so many friends that are in the food and beverage industry, and their weekends are Monday through Wednesday. So until the pandemic hit, we were just out almost every freaking night with different groups of those people. And the kind of running joke was it's a bad day to go to a bar during a Crash Midnight show because all the people in the service industry are taking that day off to come out and party with us. So good luck getting the drink the way you ordered it on those days.
Yeah, so just with as many bands as there are out in Vegas, I mean, I walk down Fremont and you have 2 stages and there's 3-4 bands that play on each one each day. I go to the Link and there's, a band playing in the concourse there. How does Crash Midnight set itself apart from all these other bands in Vegas that are locals, and how do you make sure you stand out and people remember who you are?
So, I mean, there's a very different scene, I guess I'd say, for the cover bands that you would see mostly on Fremont and on New York and that kind of stuff, which are full of extremely talented musicians, but playing obviously kind of top 40 stuff or 70s rock or whatever it is, the cover scene, and that's a revolving door of again, it's crazy how good these musicians are. You hear the stuff that they're able to just nail better than the actual bands who sang them, But that's one scene. And then we found, the original music scene, and the touring music scene, which is a very different element out here that you'll see in the actual clubs, House of Blues or Brooklyn Bowl or back before RIP Hard Rock Club in vinyl. And then especially downtown at Fremont Country Club, Backstage Bar and Billiards, and Vapped on Sahara, and those clubs, they have the real gritty rock fans. And what's been so cool is I can't tell you how many freaking rock fans there are out here. It floors me how strong the rock scene is out here, and how starved they were. Maybe because there are so many cover bands, and and as cool as that is, that may not be. They may want to go see, the more live. It's more of that's the tourist scene, I guess, is what I'm trying to say for the cover bands. And the locals want to go out and they want to go to the shows. And it's been incredible. Every single show, there's more and more people. We sold out our last. Well, actually, so we had 2 shows. We had a sold out show that was sold out a month in advance at Backstage Bar and Billiards about 8 months or so before the pandemic hit. And then we had another one that was supposed to happen last May that was sold out over 2 months ahead of time, which was just such a great feeling. We had such great bands that were involved. A band I was telling you about, Mojave Sun, was in there. A band that's unfortunately no longer a band anymore, but it was a great band called Mad Rabbits that was part of it. And that was crazy, having that thing sold out 2 months in advance. And then obviously the pandemic hit and everything got canceled. But there's a demand out here, a very, very strong demand for the original music scene.
So there you go, guys. If you're in Vegas, go off strip and see the real rock bands doing original stuff. So, I am going over my notes now, and I think I've hit just about everything that I have for you guys.
Oh, killer, man. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a lot to be up to right now in the pandemic, but I think we've been very lucky. It's something we were talking about before we really got online here. I think that has helped us, and I kind of want to get out there just for a lot of the other bands that have been, that have been really, struggling with what's going on right now with the pandemic. There's a lot of big touring bands that just are either hanging it up or, don't really know what to do. And I think we were both cursed and blessed by, the experience that we had, in the major label, the whole like industry side of stuff with, the agents and the labels and all that. When we first started out, we got to a point where we had not the best experience with our label. We were always kind of like a day late and a dollar short to a lot of things, from them, but it ended up being, I think, a blessing because it forced us to really take ownership of that on our own and create our own opportunities as opposed to sitting back and relying on someone else to do it for you. And that, like Alex said, from the production standpoint, like not relying on a producer or some, person to come in and, give you the golden touch to make whatever you recorded sound great. You need to make it sound great. And same thing with, the shows. Like you need to earn that fan base. You can't rely on somebody throwing a ton of money on promotion to all of a sudden prove you have a fan base. It's not really how it works. And to be honest, it's not how it ever really worked. Most of the bands that got signed really did have, a great groundswell wherever they were. And so I think, what we've been very fortunate to have happen is we've always kind of done that. We've always been operating, I like to say, a little bit outside the music industry. And that served us really, really well during this time because we always did stuff that was a little bit outside the box or whatever. And now everything's outside the box. There is no box anymore. The box is shut down until everybody's vaccinated. So, a lot of things that we were pursuing became, much more valuable now that nobody can do it the standard way that they used to. So, if anything, for a lot of the other bands out there listening and a lot of the young bands, like go out and take ownership of your own career, man, because it's going to be the way that you become successful over the next several years, because there's going to be a lot of restructuring, a lot of things aren't going to work the way that they used to anymore. So the best thing you can do is be your best advocate and be your best salesman and be your best, just be your best out there.
And does that tie into, like, I know you recently recovered the original master recordings of Lost in the City. Is that?
Not a boy, Josh. Good remember that. We wanted to fit that one in. Thank you. That was, man, I think that was just such like a long, arduous process that, we've sort of tried to like scrub it from our memory that we ever had to go through that. But yes, we officially own all of our debut album, which is, honestly one of the best feelings. And I know, Alex and I both have, mixed feelings on how it was recorded and the production and all that kind of stuff on it. But it's just such a great feeling to own all of your material now, and all of that stuff isn't, we put all the blood, sweat, and tears into that. And as I said, we had like, through not necessarily anybody's fault, but just a lot of circumstances, didn't have the best experience going through that label route. And now to have been the people that really, we put in the hard work on the road, we put in the hard work on the studio, writing, crafting, all that stuff, to be able to say, hey, listen, we own 100% of this stuff now. And our song Down the Boulevard was just featured in Formula 4 Racing. We're actually working on, getting, featured in another, racing series that hopefully I'll be able to announce by the time we have by the time we talk to you next for our next single. But knowing that all of that stuff comes to us now instead of some, big company that didn't really put in the time or the effort, it's a really cool feeling. And it really validates everything that we've done and all the work. I mean, God, Alex moved out here. I moved out here. Like we went through a lot of stuff to get to where we are here. And it's really cool to be here with ourselves and our catalog intact.
No, that is fantastic. It does sound like you've landed in a great place with all of that and do have a good road ahead. And I think we couldn't leave on a more positive note than that one. We've got the streaming shows coming up on March 6th. You can go ahead and pre-save the new single Killing Time on Spotify and Apple Music. And where can we go and buy tickets for the streaming show?
So the streaming show is actually going to be free. That's one of the great things about this. Is they're working in sponsors to be able to cover the cost of the bands and the production. So this streaming show is free. So it's going to be done through Backstage Bar and Billiards website, but it'll be available on Facebook and a whole bunch of other outlets. So I'll get you the direct link so you can actually just put it right in the article.
All right, so just look for that in the description below in the article, and it's free, so you have no reason not to go. So, Shaun,
Absolutely.
Alex, thank you for your time. And good hearing from you. Stay safe, gentlemen.
You too, Josh. Great talking to you, man.
Hey, Josh. Have a good one, buddy.
Thanks. You too.
Later.
All right, bye.